Welcome to Flipping Miami, a podcast for those who want to learn real estate investing, do more, and make more. Now, here is your host, Raul Bolufe.
Raul Bolufe here. I have today Greg Helbeck on the podcast. We met a couple years back, and we kind of became friends, always kept in touch. And we said, hey, let's get on the podcast together and let's talk a little shop and see if we can provide some value here, man. So what's up?
Absolutely, man. Well, thanks for having me on the show, man. I'm really excited to be on here. And, man, we've been talking for a while now. We've met a few times and we've been to some events together. And, we've linked up on the phone a few times. And it's been a pleasure being your friend over the last couple of years.
Yeah. And I think you had said are you in New York now or San Diego now?
I live in San Diego. I moved out there almost a year ago now, but I'm in New York as we speak for some real estate stuff. So I'm back in upstate New York right now for some deals we're doing. I got to kind of come into the market and take care of some stuff.
I have to go take a trip to San Diego, man. I like that place.
Oh, you have to, bro. It's a great city, man. It's kind of like I've never been to Miami, but it reminds me of Tampa, at least, San Diego. So it reminds me of.
There's a part of Miami that's pretty similar to the San Diego, like where all the boats are and stuff, like the marina, that strip. It's pretty cool. But anyways,
I got to check Miami out too, man.
Yeah, you got to come. But anyways, so let's jump into this thing. So I know you're doing some wholesaling. You're really good at the sales stuff. So tell me a little bit about how you got started and kind of like why you got started.
Absolutely, man. So Greg Helbeck, wholesaler, been flipping a lot of properties, not as much rentals. And the way I got started was I'm 23 now. So this was 3.5 years ago. So I was 20 at the time, and I was playing hockey. So I was playing competitive hockey. I didn't go to college yet. And I wanted to play pro hockey, true story. And I worked my tail off to try to get there. And, long story short, got cut from a bunch of teams, and I realized that dream was over. And I was very disappointed about that. So I had to go to college after and move back in with my parents. So, I moved in with my parents, and I was like, oh, my God. At the end of the day, it wasn't that bad because it actually allowed me to have time to not make a lot of money. I could basically be broke for a while because I was going to college. So that's another side story. But basically, I actually got a postcard in the mail about a real estate seminar in town that was some gurus in town or whatever. And I remember listening to some real estate podcasts, and I always knew, real estate was a way you could become wealthy, buying properties and whatnot. So, I was actually cutting wheat. I had a job. It was on Craigslist because I always liked having odd jobs because I wanted to pick my own hours. I hated someone telling me what to do. So I was a little, weed cutter boy for $10 an hour, cutting weeds out in Greenwood Lake. Ironically, the first deal I really did that catapulted, some momentum was actually in Greenwood Lake. It was down the street from where I was working at the time. And I remember listening to a podcast, Epic Real Estate by Matt Terrio. And, he was talking about flipping houses and escrows. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then I went to that event and they were talking about, wholesaling. You don't need a lot of money. And I didn't have any money at the time. I was relatively broke. I had $2,000 in my bank. I spent $1,000 on the event. So I basically, spent half my money, went all in, went to this event, and, it got me really fired up. I was like the youngest dude there. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get rich right away. And, I just kind of went out of that event like a bat out of hell. And I was just like a dog chasing a stick. And I spun my wheels hard for 9 months, didn't do any types of business. A lot of activity, but not a lot of productivity. Right. And then after 9 months, I linked up with a local mentor. I got him out to coffee and I asked him some questions. And he really kind of, I was super young. So he's like, for a 20-year-old, this is quite interesting. Normally people are trying to, go and not do this stuff. So I'll definitely, take, you can have some of my time. So I actually worked for him for a little bit. I did a couple deals with him. I helped him out. I wasn't a principal in that transaction, but I made some money. And then after that, I kind of quit working for him because I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And then we started doing deals together, like JVing deals. And then after that, got another mentor, local mentor, kind of brought me under his wing, taught me how to do the business. I worked for them for a little bit, and then I quit because I wanted to do my own deals. So then I wholesaled them deals. So, after a year, after a year and a half, I started wholesaling, barely doing a deal a month. But I was still making money in real estate. That's how I got started, bro. So it was crazy, thinking about that was 3 years ago, and how quick, how much you can grow in a short window. I mean, I'm sure you've went through the same thing. It's crazy. You're like, holy cow,
No, that's nuts, man. There's a lot of golden little nuggets he said And I'm like passionate about like the younger generation because
same
younger generation, right? It's
yeah, bro. I'm
we're
so
all
passionate about it. Yeah, I gotta help everyone. Yeah.
it's like, you're 20 years old when you went to that seminar.
Yeah.
You're cutting grass, or cutting wheat, whatever. And weeds, or what were you cutting? No,
I was weed whacking. I was weed whacking. I was afraid. I didn't want to see a snake because I'm mortified of snakes. So I remember I was the weed whack. It was a nightmare. Anyway.
Yeah. So you're 20 years old. You get this flyer and this postcard. Like, why would you even like get in your car and go to this random event? Why?
It's because I was looking and I read, by the way, I read some books in between then. I read books. I discovered podcasts. I started reading books. So like my mind was open to new ideas, right? I didn't want to be a 9 to 5 person. Nothing wrong with that at all, but that wasn't for me. And I really liked freedom and being able to kind of control my schedule within reason, obviously. So I was like, you know what? I'm in a position now. I have no money. I don't have any debt, right? I was going to community college. And I wanted something greater. I didn't want to just do the same old thing and get the same old job. And like I said, nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do, but that wasn't for me. And I said, you know what? Let me give this real estate a chance right now because I'm 20 years old. So even if I fall flat on my face and it's not for me, I'm 20 years old. So it's like I got nothing to lose. And if I win and it works out, then this could be the best decision I ever made. And I want to really tell you, your listeners, a key thing here. And this is, something that I'll never forget this because, I'm big on just mindset and habits. I made the decision when I was at that real estate event. And this was the pre-event. This was like the one where they sold me on the $1,000 event, right? Yeah. So it was free, right? $997 value, free today. Anyway, so I made the decision at that event. I was going to be a successful real estate investor. And I was signing up. I was not I've always been very decisive. So I was like, I'm going to be successful. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm signing up today. And I looked back at my 2 friends because they went with me. And I said, I don't care what both of you guys are doing. I'm doing this. You guys can do it with me. We can split the fee and we can all go for cheaper, or I'll go by myself. I don't care. And my one buddy took me up on the offer, and we've been buying and selling properties together for a while now. It's actually Devin. So Devin was with me. And it was Devin. Wow. Yeah, and I just did that deal with Devin, actually, that one I told you about earlier. So,
That's
he
awesome.
Obviously, he did it too.
He
So
did it with you.
Yeah, he funded the whole thing. I didn't have to put a nickel in my money.
I bet your other friends like, fuck.
Yeah. He's like, shit. Anyway, so that's how I got started, brother. Long answer there.
Interesting. That's so cool. I always like hearing stories. I'm sure you do. I think like entrepreneurs, people they love hearing stories of how people started and why. I'm obsessed with that shit. I love hearing it.
I love it, man. I could hear it all day.
Yeah, because it's just like I think a lot of people want to make it out to be like this movie scene, but it's just like one stupid decision or one simple commitment that changes the whole thing. Right there, you said it you know what? Yeah, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but I'm going to commit. I'm going to do it. I'm going to find a way to become successful.
Yeah. That's key, man. And I made the decision I was going to be successful there. I said, and this was before I went to the event. I was like, if this real estate thing doesn't work out, I'm still 20. But once I was at the event, I was like, no, I'm doing this. I'm going to be successful. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this happen. And it's not going to be, I thought it was going to be easier than it was. So reality kind of smacked me in the face. But we can talk about that. So yeah, man, that's how I got started.
But you're not weed whacking anymore, so that's
good. No, that's good.
So yeah, tell us a little bit about what you got going on right now. I know we spoke off the cuff that you're doing some deals in New York. You're doing a deal in New York. So what markets are you in? How are you getting these deals? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So this is a little confusing. So I'm from New York, all right, and I still do a lot of business in New York, and it's not New York City. It's the Hudson Valley region of New York. So it's upstate, quote unquote upstate. It's really an hour from the city, so I don't consider that upstate. But anyway, so that market, we're buying in there. We're buying in, 1 to 3 a month in New York consistently, and I'm also buying, another 1 to 3 properties a month down in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, and I've done a few properties in Austin, but mostly Dallas. So not doing high volume. So really it's anywhere from 2 to 4 a month. I'm trying to maximize my profits. And at the same time, I'm doing all of this really for the most part out of San Diego because I actually moved to San Diego a year ago. So I'm doing the quote unquote virtual investing model. Sometimes I have to go to the market, preferably New York when we're closing on bigger properties and we're getting more financing. I'll just get more involved. But for the most part, I'm virtually operating in 2 markets, New York and Dallas, Texas. And I'm doing it from San Diego. Our exit strategies right now, we're probably doing 50-50 assigning or 50% assigning and 50% closing and just flipping. Not full rehabs, but we're going and doing the minimum changes to get the maximum value on the MLS. So, 50% wholesaling, 50% closing, and then listing on the MLS and doing, like I said, not high volume, but, our spreads are pretty healthy.
I love it. And are you getting these through cold calling, through mail, through?
Yeah, great question. So we're doing two things. We're doing direct mail in New York only. I'm not doing direct mail in Texas. And we're doing cold calling, but the way that we're cold calling is we're not doing blanket calling. We're getting very targeted on who the prospects we want to pursue are. And then we're making strategic calibrated calls to those owners and then family members. So we're not just trying to there's nothing wrong with just mass cold calling, but we're finding people who are on like 2 to 4 different lists at once. So they have to be on a minimum of 2. Usually we're like on 4 or 5, even though they're hard to get in touch with.
Right.
And then we're reaching out to the seller, the seller's family members, the seller's associates, the seller's workplace. We're like blasting them. We're just reaching into their entire database and we're trying to just see if someone wants to raise their hand. So it's really more skip tracing, like deep skip tracing. We're finding people who are very hard to find and we're tracking them down, locking them up, and flipping them quick.
Yeah, you're being like a hardcore investigator type of person.
Yeah, I'm like exactly. That's what I kind of described to you. They're like, what do you do? And I'm like a private investigator dude who does stuff remotely. So
investigator
yeah.
So I'm assuming since it's so heavily weighted on the investigative side, you don't really have VAs doing that, or is it?
Yeah, I have VAs that work for me. I just hired another one today, actually, this morning. But nice. I have a lot of VAs do, because with the skip tracing stuff, it can get very complicated, especially when there's legal jargon, like, title, chain, airships, like it's a lot of stuff, right? So a VA would really not understand that. So I've had VAs do the calls for me, right? And I've also had VAs do more admin work for me. And I've found that the admin work is much more easy to duplicate and systematize and have a VA do, opposed to having a VA try to crawl through a skip trace file and make contact. Because even if they make contact, at least from my perspective and from my feedback on my data, the consumers are not, they can sense sometimes that it's a remote assistant, and then I'll call them back or my partner will call them back, and they're more open to us speaking to them. Like they're very open when I call, but then they said, oh, I spoke to your associate and I didn't want to talk to them. And then I've seen that happen so many times. I'm like, well, maybe I should focus on the calls if they're targeted, and then the VA can do what they're good at by like the data processing and all that BS. And, I just focus. I'm like a sniper when I'm calling, though. I'm not just like, like I'm targeted as heck. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's almost like it's a sales appointment when I'm calling them. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's almost
you you already like mentally know what's going on with that lead, because you're like, they're a tax default and they just got divorced and they have equity and they have some kind of title problem.
And it's vacant.
It's vacant.
And it's vacant. Yeah. So
you already know, like when you call them, like you're kind of like already dug for motivation beforehand.
Exactly. So that's why I'm not that like quote ashamed of like making the calls myself, because it's a high ROI on my time. I can do it from anywhere, and they're very productive phone calls. And a lot of times we're getting into the negotiation right away, and it's like I'm locking it down on the telephone and we're flipping them. So it's like, for me, it's dollar producing activities. It's tough to scale, but it's productive. So if it's productive, I'll still keep doing it.
That's awesome, man. I love that. And for people listening too, hey, I actually got it yesterday in the meetup. Some guys were saying, hey man, like, how do I but I want to scale, but no one cares as much as me. No one cares as much as me in my business. And it's like, dude, you just got VAs that, pay probably under $8 an hour, maybe.
Yeah. Or per project, depending on whatever I need them to do for me. It's always contractor based. Yeah.
VAs to do this investigative work that someone in this world, there's companies that charge probably like $1,000 for whatever these VAs are doing, right? Like a PI, like a private investigator, is pretty much does the same shit that you're teaching these VAs to do on some occasions.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And you got a VA to do it, and if they probably don't care, they probably do care, we don't really know, but you're doing the work and you're making money, right?
Exactly, and that's the thing, and the VAs do a lot. Also, the VAs do a lot of like list stuff. Like they like make the lists like a certain format, and they do a lot of like really admin stuff that I make a training video, and then they can I make a training video so simple. a 6-year-old child could watch it, and then a 6-year-old child could tell another 6-year-old child exactly what it was about. And like so I try to keep it super simple so the VA understands it. And then when it comes to some of the heavy digging, I'll bring on a genealogist if I have to. And I've done that 4+ times, and I think 3 out of 4 times we've made over $20,000 a deal by bringing on a genealogist. And if we didn't bring a genealogist on, we wouldn't have made jack. So, I mean, I'm not going to roll my sleeves up and spend 9 hours on a file myself, because I can bring on a genealogist who's an expert at finding people and family trees, and I can pay them $150 and they can bring me all the information I would have found in 9 hours of my time. That's
awesome. Actually, I wrote that down because I have some leads that I really want to find. But that's awesome, dude. And I heard you say like, I heard you say like, I don't know how I'm going to scale that, or it's not very scalable. And that's something that's always going in my mind. Yeah. What is your take on deciding if you're going to scale or not?
I love that, man. I'm so happy you asked me that. It's almost like I was hoping you asked me that question, because like I was thinking about this, like I think today or yesterday. I was going for a run and I was thinking, I think about a lot of shit.
You probably subconsciously think about it every day, just like,
dude, I always do, bro. Like I'm always thinking about like what's that whole like begin with the end in mind, like Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And it's like, dude, I'm telling you, like, and we have mutual friends, and like I have some people that I know that I'm good friends with, and they have huge companies, and it's great. But like a lot of the times their overhead is so high every month. Like I'm talking like 15, 20 deals a month, like big, and their overhead is so high. And like when there's just so many expenses right now where I am in my life. I'm 23. I live in San Diego. I do a lot of virtual stuff. I personally would not want that right now. So I really focus personally on it. So this will tie back to scaling. I focus on how much net profit do I want to make per transaction, and then how many transactions do I need to do to then hit my annual goal that I want to make, right? So how much net profit do I need to make? This is after all the bills are paid. And then how many transactions do I need to do per net profit to hit my annual income goal, right? Because I want the business to serve me. And then how do I do it remotely, which is obviously important, because then I want to be able to live, I was in Hawaii and whatever. So, and that's kind of how I'm looking at like the scalability of the business now. I'm definitely doing more deals now. Like, there's more closing, there's more revenue coming in every month now, and it's been great. But I'm still focusing on like, how do I do maybe less deals but make more money per deal? And then how do I also, because I all want that to tie to my bottom line and my income at the end of the day. And then now how do I also, instead of just wholesaling everything, how do I get more creative? How do I do deals where instead of making a $50,000 spread, how do I make $100,000 by maybe doing a land deal, subdividing the land and then selling 3 lots off to developers, maybe getting a building rezoned and now selling it, as a commercial building and making $250,000. So I'm going to start to get into bigger deals as I grow, and I'm going to be more focused on deal size and income opposed to like deal volume, because I want to be making $1 million net a year in this business within the next 18 to 24 months. And the only way I can really do that without having to scale like crazy is to do just bigger deals and eventually get into commercial.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And that's an awesome thing. I feel like mainly this conversation is going to hit people who are doing, 1 to 3 deals per month. And they're like, man, I see people that have, 10 employees. I see people that have 50 employees. I want to do that. But it's not for everybody. And that's perfectly okay. And just like you said, there might be people that have 50 employees that make the same amount of money that you would if you do 10 deals a year and they do 200. Yeah. It all depends on like what you want, what you want to look like. There's pros and cons to everything, but I love to ask that question, like what makes you decide whether to scale or not? And
exactly. I love
the answer that you kind of gave me, and you can elaborate a little bit more, is more just lifestyle. Right now in your life, you just want to live virtually and do things like that. You want to elaborate.
Absolutely, man. And it's funny. It is definitely lifestyle, but at the same time, I like having a structure and like working really hard. Like I'll give you an example. For me, and I didn't realize this until like 6 months ago, because I was in a little bit of like a funk, and like I moved to San Diego and I had like all this freedom, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, you're fucking. I'm like, no, I'm serious. I was like in a funk, and I'm like, really? I didn't even want to work. I didn't want to work, dude. I was like, for what? Like, what am I gonna do? Just sit here in my apartment. Like I just really, because I moved and it just screwed in my head, and I was really just to justify like, do I want to do this? Like, I just was really like. And then I realized, like, because I was in that funk and I got out of the funk, and I like the process of deal making, right? Because as I've grown a little bit, I've now I close on more stuff and we do like bigger spreads. And I just like the process of just deal making. Like, and I think it's fun for me. It's like a game. It's a challenge. It gets me out of my comfort zone, and I can push my limits. And like, that's why I want to get into more commercial deals and just get into more sophisticated things. And there's actually a book I read called Confessions of a Real Estate Entrepreneur by Jim Randall. I've been studying that book for months. I watch this guy's YouTube video every Sunday before the week starts. And I just want to keep growing. I wouldn't say per volume, but just for per like net profit and just capability of doing different types of deals. So it definitely is a lifestyle thing. But really, it's like I don't want to have a ton of overhead, and then because if I have all this overhead right now, if I want to make a shift in my business, I got to fire all my employees, and the whole business is going to halt. You know, it's more of like I heard an analogy from my friends. They're like, yeah, your business is more like a jet ski. Like, you know, it's kind of fast, it's not huge, but you can turn really quickly. My business is like a cruise ship, so if I want to turn, I got to turn this whole thing around, and it takes a long time, and there's no right or wrong reason. And I was like, that's a good analogy. Like, it's interesting. It is really kind of like a little jet ski. So
that's really good. And I can definitely relate. It was like maybe a year and a half ago that we were like crushing it. Everything was going well. And we had 1 month that we did 17 deals in 1 month.
Holy shit.
17 deals.
Crazy.
And I mean, granted, there's guys doing 30, 40, 50 a month. But whatever. For a little small fish after 2 years of business. Yeah.
Yeah, Jesus.
But we had like 15 people working in the office. We had a like massive overhead.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, what the hell? And so we made all this money, but at the end, it's like, what do we keep? Yeah, we kept more than we did in the previous months, but I'm like, man, how do we do that with less deals and just make more money? So now we're doing anywhere from like 6 to 7 deals per month consistently and making the same money as if we were making 17 deals.
That's the key, man. Yep.
And I can relate. I think a lot of people don't realize that until you get to that point, you know, and it's not a bad thing because you learn so many lessons getting there. But then it's like you get there, you're like, fuck, okay, this is maybe not how we do it. It's okay to do 17, 20, 50, 100 deals, but you have to really like understand those hardcore numbers, those net profits, the margins, the revenues, all that shit.
Yeah, because at that point you're running a business operation. It's just real estate's just your product at that point. Like, so like that's awesome, and I'm sure that was probably you learned probably so much from that. And that's, like I said, that's impressive, by the way. That's freaking awesome, and especially in Miami. So I like the whole process, like I said earlier, the process of deal making, like, you know, getting into a serious negotiation with a seller, buying a property, adding value, and selling it, and then being able to like. I think that's kind of fun for me. Like just it's just the process of it. I don't know. Maybe I'm a weirdo. No. But I don't know. I think it's fun. It's like Monopoly, dude. It's like fun. It's like this doesn't work. I'm driving around with a cup of coffee in my hand, looking at a building. Like, what the fuck? How this does not work? You know?
Yeah. That's awesome.
Crazy.
So and let's jump into it. I know you're big on sales. You do a lot of sales trainings and stuff. So tell me a little bit about, because when we first met, you were doing wholesale.
Yep.
With your buddy. And then we didn't talk for a while, and then I saw you got into like sales. What drove you to really dive deep into that and just start these trainings and all that? Yeah,
totally, man. So I realized that one of my biggest issues when I was kind of brand new was that I didn't have marketable skills to provide value every month in the marketplace to justify making money. So I didn't know how to sell, basically. I didn't know how to market. I was very weak in those areas. And I said, the only way that I'm going to get good at this business, or get better at least, is if I can get into the top 10% of like, you know, just get in the top 10% of salespeople, right? Because I did not have a sales system. I was struggling on appointments. I didn't have anything to follow. I had no track record. I had no experience to fall back on. And I was not in control of those situations. And I just was like, this is not good. I need to know how to sell, because no matter what I'm selling, like it's a skill that I can learn and I'll have it for the rest of my life. You know, like selling is everything. So I made the decision once again that I'm going to get freaking good at sales, because I went on a sales call with one of my mentors and I embarrassed myself. I actually got kicked out of the house, and it was so freaking embarrassing. Dude. It was so embarrassing. Like I sat down to try to make him my offer, and this guy wouldn't even sit with me. He had his arms crossed, like looking down at me, and he's like, "Get out of my house. You're embarrassing yourself." And I got out of the house. It was so fucking humiliating. Like, unbelievable. But then that's when I made the decision to like freaking change. I was like, I need to figure this out. So I started reading a bunch of sales books, and I had like a high level perspective on it, but I didn't understand it really. So there's a guy named John Martinez. I'm sure a lot of people have probably heard of him. He's a sales trainer in this industry. And I joined his training. I spent like, I don't know, a couple $1,000 on his course. And that was a lot of money at the time too, because like I still wasn't doing that many deals. And I'm like, well, this is worth it anyway. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, let me do it. So I jumped into his training, and I really I started studying this stuff like an hour a day. I would commit to studying it, watch it over and over and over again. Then I'd role play with myself. I'd record it's crazy. I'd record myself like on my camera on my computer doing the sales training. And then I'd watch myself. It was like, and it's super weird, but like that's how I started getting good. And then I started going on appointments and I'd record them. And then I would I'd record myself. And then I would hear myself in these conversations and I would see what I did right, what I did wrong. And then I started breaking those sales calls down for myself to train myself because I didn't really have that many people around me to do it. And then I started putting them on the internet on Facebook. And then people were listening to them and they liked them. And then John kind of caught wind of it and we started working together a little bit, I'm training people together. So that's kind of how I got into sales. I just went all into it, dude. And I'm like, I'm going to learn this skill. Yeah. So.
Bro, I mean, let me back up real quick because you skipped over a part that was important. Not skipped, but you kind of briefly went over it. But you said that you realized that you didn't have the high level skills to justify getting paid. And when you made that decision, you were 22.
I was 21, I think. 21. Yeah, it was a couple years ago.
How the fuck do you even think of that? Why? How did that thought come in? Was it from reading books? Was it from podcasts? Did you have some kind of millionaire talking to you? Why did you even come up with that thought?
It was from a book dude, I'm telling you, everything that I'm saying today is from books or podcasts or because I'm young. I have so much to learn, man. I just have so much to learn. So, but everything I've learned is either from books, podcasts, mentors, or experiences. And I don't have that many experiences because I'm 23, but It was from a book. It was from a Brian Tracy book. It was it was either the Go Giver or Brian Tracy book, or it's just something that had to do with your income is in direct proportion to the value you can create in the marketplace. And then I listened to another book and he talked about selling being a valuable skill. And then I tied those two together and I was like, oh shit, selling is an important skill. And if I have more skills, I can make more money. And then it was I'm not kidding. It was a flashbulb went off in my face and I was like, holy shit, I need to get good at sales. And then, it just started, it just happened, it just kind of then I just went all into it, obviously, I didn't dabble.
I love that. Yeah. I love that's awesome. Cause I'm kind of the same way. I understand things now. I'm value and marketplace and stuff. I mean, when we're young, we kind of we're just doing shit.
You're trying to chase the money. Let's be honest. You want to get paid when you're young. You're
trying to chase the money, whatever. And it's just but when you hear young people have these thoughts, it's very rare, you don't hear that shit often. And so I want to know kind of what happened. And basically what you're telling me is books, podcasts, learning from the people that know more, learning from the people who have written their experiences down on a book or talk about it in a YouTube video, a podcast. It's so key, man. If you don't have access to a multimillionaire or billionaire, you do now with the internet, YouTube, podcast. Just listen to them 100 times and you're kind of their friend.
Exactly, dude. You hit it right on the head. Whoever's listening to this right now, you're literally having a cup of coffee with me and Raphael. Because right now, this is – or Raul. Sorry, Jesus.
It's all good.
Me and Raul, this is a conversation him and I would have if we were out to dinner right now in Miami at a steakhouse. We just happen to hit the record button right now and you're listening to it. So, take advantage of podcasts because I still listen to so many podcasts. I listen to them over and over again. And YouTube, there's no excuse now to not know what to do. It's all out there for free mostly, Yeah.
And do you read the same books over and over? I heard you say Brian Tracy real
over and over and over. And I go deep on books. I read a lot of books, but I go deep on the books that I get value from, man. Because the more you read a book and it's a valuable book, the more that book becomes part of your identity, right? So dude, I've read Never Split the Difference. I'm listening to it right now for the 16th time. I don't have it tracked, but dude, I've listened to that book so many times and I apply that shit every single day in my business. Every day I'm doing some sort of negotiation thing. And that book is in my brain. It's tattooed in my mind.
Always there. Yeah.
It's always there. And situations and you're label emotion. It's crazy, but you gotta put the time in, you gotta put the work in, you can't, there's no.
Yeah. That's sick.
Yeah.
It's sick because, now with the internet, you have the Tai Lopez's and all these people coming out and saying, read a ton of books.
Yeah.
And it's not a competition of, let me read 60 books a year because I want to be a CEO. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
But really, the real badasses, the people who are really learning are reading the same book 5, 10, 15 times.
Exactly.
I've read them 5 to 10 times.
Exactly.
Into this
exactly. And that's where, and then you can take that book and you can explain that book to your cousin at dinner because you've read it so many times, and then you can explain how you've applied that book to make money to your cousin, and then you really get that book, and that's where the power is, man.
No, I love that, dude. That's an awesome little rant that we had there. But
I love it, bro.
So a couple last things. I like to ask this to investors, and I know it's like an unorthodox question. I don't think I've heard it on many podcasts.
Okay.
It's simple. What do you feel is the $100 million play in real estate?
All right. Well, number one, it's commercial real estate. So I like residential real estate. I think it's great. I'll probably always buy single family homes, at least for like liquidity and safety, hedging. But like I 3 years from now, I want to be a full-time commercial real estate investor. And like I said, I have not done this commercial deal, disclaimer. So like, this is all like what I want to do in the future, like the vision. But I think $100 million, et cetera, it's either one of two things. So I'm going to say commercial because I think that you can make way more money. There's more risk in commercial, but you can make more money buying and selling buildings or buying and holding buildings, apartment buildings, office buildings, industrial, retail, strip malls, whatever. It's just bigger buildings, bigger numbers, more zeros. So I think if you can scale that, I think you can get to 100 million quicker. This is all theory of disclaimer. I'm not there yet. And then the second option, if I had to say, and this is all guessing, it would be some sort of what's that saying? Like, if you're in a gold rush, don't dig for gold, sell the shovels. Something in like some sort of software, sort of technology thing where it like satisfies some niche, like almost like a Redfin or a Zillow, where you can get like venture funding and like, have an exit or something in like the tech, real estate tech finance industry. If you're going to go like into that area, or getting into commercial property, buying and selling buildings, buying value add, getting in there, negotiating the cap rate and, adding value and then just reselling those or refining them and just building a portfolio. I think, you can acquire 1,000 apartment units quicker than you can acquire 1,000 houses usually.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It's way less of a headache.
So so that's my answer to that.
Yeah, no, and it's good. I like that question because it usually gets people's brains like turning. Like I saw you look up.
I love that question. Yeah.
You look up and you're like, oh, well, commercial for sure. And then, you know, and I like that because, one of my goals, it's not even about the money, but I just I want to find it in myself to get to that value. If you produced 100 million worth of revenue, or if you ended up becoming worth 100 million somehow, you produce a shitload of value in this marketplace somehow. Right?
Unbelievable value in the marketplace. Yeah.
And to do that, you have to become like that $100 million value giver. And
I love that, dude. I love, man. Let's kind of focus on this real quick because this is right up my freaking alley, dude. I love how you're bringing that up, man. It's like, and that's like you say the word the number 100 million, it's a big number, but I think it's number one. It's possible for both of us and for the people listening to this. Yeah. And I love to study and really take my advice now from people who are worth over $100 million. Ed Milet, Grant Cardone, this guy David Osborne, he's a Keller Williams owner. Paul Morris, another guy. I like to listen to people who are where I want to be. And, I'd rather and there's nothing wrong if you're worth 50 million, go, you know what I mean? Right. But I like to listen to the guys who are worth big money because I get to hear their perspective on how they became worth over $100 million. And I'm a big believer in what is it? Success leaves clues or copy your way to success. And, I mean, these guys, let's keep this real estate wise, like Grant Cardone, for example. I really like that guy. He's got a lot of good stuff. He's been buying commercial property for 20 years, right? He's been buying apartments and selling them and holding them, and he's worth probably $200 million,
Yeah, and doing sales and doing this and doing that, integrating everything to make this whole conglomerate. And it's awesome. I literally, when I go to these mastermind stuff, I ask people what do you see as $100 million play? And it's even high level investors are well, I don't know if and they give me all these different answers. And so I'm putting all of them into my mind. And so as I'm going day by day, I'm hearing things. I'm this guy told me that could be 100. So then I focus on, it's a weird thing of just putting a bunch of references in my brain. And over time, I'm just going to guide myself there.
I love it, man. No, it's true, man. So what are you seeing from some guys in the industry? When you ask that question, a couple people, what are they saying to you? Are they saying commercial or are they saying tech?
Commercial's the top answer. Commercial's the top answer. The other answer I really liked was from a high-level guy, and he says you have to buy a piece of many businesses. So he kind of like exited the real estate a little bit. He said, you can have your real estate company, your wholesale, your brokerage. You have this, you have that, and then you just own pieces of it. You don't have to be owners. We own piece of like a bunch of companies who are producing revenue. And then, you could do so much. You can refinance some of these things. You could sell them. You could do this. You could do that. You could bring in more partners, equity partners, things like that. So
Smart.
His answer was get a piece into a lot of businesses. And
that's awesome.
So now when I hear somebody talking about buying businesses, I'm like, ooh, let me go and talk to people.
Exactly.
So I'm like, learn.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's an awesome thing. But yeah, dude, just to end it, the last thing, I know we talked a lot about mindset and things like this. Real quick, give me like a cool, maybe like your most like niche, like tactical advice for, someone that's either starting or doing a deal or two. Like what's something like tactically like this list or this mail.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So that they can leave this podcast and say, okay, these guys didn't just rant about stupid shit all day. Like they actually told me something. So like something people can use, like a cool tactical.
Before I give the answer, I'm gonna challenge your listeners right now to listen to this episode at least 5 times. And if you listen to this at least 5 times, DM me on Instagram and DM Raul on Instagram and say I listened to it 5 times.
Yeah,
and I'll
shout you out.
We'll shout you out for sure. So that challenge issued. Tactical advice, if you're brand new, holy cow, this is what I would have done. All right, go out and find 200 vacant houses, okay? 200, not 50, not 70, 200 vacant houses. And if you're in a bit small town, go all over your county. If you're in a small county, go all over your freaking region. Find 200 vacant houses. And then go driving. Yeah, because I'm assuming they have no money. If they have no money, they have time, most likely. So go out, get 200 vacant houses, put them in a spreadsheet, and then I would go learn how to use the county tax assessor's website. And even if you don't get a deal doing this, you will understand how to like go through the process of trying to go after a vacant house. Go to the county's assessor's website and then find the owners for all those, 200 properties. And then once you have the owners and the addresses, then I would get the phone numbers and I would make 200 phone calls to those 200 properties. I mean, there's going to be some bank owns and some people who just bought them who are rehabbing them, but it's a numbers game. And call 200 vacant properties. There's a very good chance, and there's no guarantees here. If you call 200 vacant properties that you've seen with your own 2 eyes, you're going to probably make like 10 or 15 offers at least, hopefully more. And you should get 1 deal from there, at least, maybe 2. So you got to get the vacant houses though. Do not go there's nothing wrong with occupied houses. I buy them all the time. But look for the distress, the vacancy when you are starting, because that is I think the quickest way to deal. And that's something I didn't do when I started. I wish I freaking did that because I would have saved myself a lot of damn time. So 200 vacants, man. 200 vacants.
That's awesome advice. Actually, our most profitable mail list is vacant.
Dude, same here. I'm working on a deal right now. It's going to be a 6-figure profit off the vacant list.
Love it.
We're closing on it, but like still, I mean, it's vacant. There's already motivation. No one lives there.
I love it, man. So yeah, that's actually really good tactical advice. Just literally, you have no excuse, but you can't ever call me or Greg and say, "Hey, this thing doesn't work." You get 200 vacant houses and call them. No,
that's right.
So then
200 vacants.
Go fly a kite and never come back.
Go fly a kite. You listen to this podcast 5 times because like I listen to my favorite podcasts like sometimes once a week. Once a week. Like you gotta go deep with this stuff, not just wide.
Yeah, and I don't want to pat ourselves on the back, but we killed it on this one. But so Greg, so how can people find you, get in touch with you, learn, possibly do deals with you?
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. So I'll give you a couple ways you can follow me. Instagram, GREGO_37. So Grego _37. I have a podcast called Pave the Way Podcast. You can look it up on iTunes or search Greg Helbeck on iTunes. It'll pop up. You can go to pavethewaypodcast.com. If you want to reach out to me directly, you can DM me on Instagram or you can email me, greg@pavethewaypodcast.com. So that's GREG@pavethewaypodcast.com, and I'd be happy to chat with you.
Cool. We'll find a way to put this in the show notes too. And if you need his info, just message me and I'll send it to you. Awesome. But anyways, thanks, Greg, dude. I appreciate you for being on here and sharing some little nuggets.
Pleasure, brother.
Hopefully we see each other in person soon, so either in San Diego or Miami or something.
That's right. Some sunny city around the country.
Yeah, we got a plan to do maybe a follow-up podcast in maybe like next a couple months or something, just to see.
We can do a live. We can do some live content next time we're face to face. You know,
that'd be cool. Yeah, we'll plan that. We'll plan that maybe in 2-3 months. We'll chat.
Yeah, that'd be great, brother. All right. Well, listen, it was nice chatting.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you on the next one.
See ya.
All right, peace.